Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanao Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahaihi. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Just give me 1 minute. Okay, so we are on verse 15 of chapter 6 of Bhagavad Gita. We did 14 last time, and the English translation for the 14 is serene-minded, fearless, firm in the vow of Brahmacharya, having controlled the mind, thinking of me and balanced, let him sit, having me as a supreme goal. So we are systematically going as to what Krishna Bhagavan is saying about meditation, what's the real meaning of it from his perspectives. And then we also, in the last verse, we saw that what is the true meaning of Brahmacharya? Means reveling in Brahman, that's what it means. And just remember the other few previous verses together, because the next one is going to be connected to that. So I'm going to chant the next one, 15. Yunjaneva sadatmanam yogi niyatamanasah shanti nirvana parmam matsam sthamadhigacchati. Yunjan is balancing and also like connecting to the higher. Evam is thus, sada always. Atmanam, we're talking about the self. Yogi, here he's talking about dhyana yogi, because yogi can be karma yogi, dhyana yogi, devotional, all of them come under, but here particularly they're talking about dhyana yogi. Niyata manasa, one with the controlled mind. So we have discussed so much about this controlling of the mind, so you know what he's talking about. There's so many different ways. Shantim, everybody knows, all the Indian people know what Shanti means. We all want that. Peace. Nirvan Paramam. That which culminates in Nirvan. So here see how the Nirvan word is also used in Bhagavad Gita. So same as moksha, same as Turiya state. Several different freedom. So many other names are there of that state. Mat sanstam. Abiding in me. Adhigacchati, attains. So let's see what he's saying over here. So the word is evam over here. Evam means thus. Thus means all the things that he talked about in the previous verses. Meditation was explained, or the process to get there. So just remember all of those. So the path is kind of shown up to this point, that how to meditate on the self. And now he's saying that always meditate on that self. And Swamiji is going to explain what the word always over here, when you are sitting for that particular purpose. And in the broader sense, once we understand what Brahman is, that those saints and sages, they are in meditation always, right? Because they never forget. So that you could have both meanings over here. But for our purpose, we don't need to get scared that, hey, I don't know how to do that yet. So even if we do it at that particular time, that's good for us right now. And now the question comes, which not Sushilji, Anilji had, I think, asked. Very, very important question. That how do I be, thinking of the self, right? And we had discussed that, hey, we can use some mantras and all that. And in this verse, Nikhilanandji actually talked about exactly the same thing. That you should be aware of that self. But first I need to know what the self is. So he actually said that whatever we learned in chapter 2, we should try to remember, because अभी तक chapter 2 में भी उन्होंने बता दिया, right? कि भाई Brahman क्या है, self क्या है. So what I did was I actually made a list of the words that they have used in chapter 2, the actual words. So I'll just go through the list real quickly, and those are the characteristics, nature of self, you can say. So Avinashi, indestructible. The first one is eternal, Sanatan. Avinashi, indestructible. Avyaya, imperishable. Nityasya means always, Nitya, eternal. So same, Sanatan and Nityasya is same meaning, eternal. Aprameyasya, incomprehensible. We cannot grasp it with our mind and intellect. That's why we have to transcend and become that. And then they have one verse there, na jayate na mriyate, neither born nor dies. Shashwata, changeless. Puranaha, ancient. Ancient, Sanatan, all Nitya, all those kind of related words. But see, Krishna Bhagavan has used so many different words. You can pick few which you like and which connect to you, which resonate in your mind. Avyayam, inexhaustible. Achedya, cannot be cut. Adahya, cannot be burnt. Akhledya, cannot be wetted. Ashochya, cannot be dried up. Sarvagataha, this is very important one. All pervading, everywhere. Sthanuhu, stable. Achalaha, immovable. Sanatan, eternal, ancient. Again, I already did that, sorry. And Avyakta, unmanifest. So you cannot say nothingness, because it is there, but unmanifested, you can call it. Avyakta, unmanifest, sorry, that I already did. Achintya, unthinkable. Because again, this is a transcendental subject. That's why unthinkable. Avikarya, unchangeable. जिसमें कोई विकार नहीं होता है. Now you can imagine how many words have been used in chapter 2 itself. And that's why I keep saying that we cannot forget what we learned, because again we'll be back to square one. So that's why we got to again and again read, repeat, and all those things. And then it sinks in. It takes a long time, but it does. Over a period of time, it will. So the other word over here is so evam we saw, sada. Sada is obviously constantly, steadily for a long time. So it's not going to happen with a short time. It has to be done for a reasonably good period. So then Nikhilanandji was saying that remember we discussed about that we should be paying attention to the self, but we still don't know what that means, but let's analyze it a little bit more. But suppose if we have difficulty in paying attention, at least we can think about it, and those are the words that we can some of them use. Or if we have the mantras memorized and you know the meaning, then also is great. You can think about that way also. So with the help of the scriptures, we can think of the self and then use some of these in our meditation. And then he also mentioned that a lot of us know about that one. There is Nirvan Shatkam. Remember we discussed in the class, Mano Buddhi Ahankar Chitta Ninaham. That is by Shankaracharya. And it's a very simple Sanskrit. Most of the people who know Hindi will understand the meaning very quickly. And it's very beautifully sung by many different people. If somebody wants to really quieten their mind, if their mind is running too much, this is a very nice one to hear. And then we already have learned what Brahman is, so will resonate with us, I thought that was a very good suggestion that he gave. So all these things that we were talking about just now will help us to think about the self. So now once we know more and more about the self, then he was saying that how we should drop the thinking. What does it mean? He said you should pay attention to the self. Because he's saying that those are two different things. And he gave a very nice example. What does it mean to think about something and to pay attention to something? Okay. So he said, suppose that there is a flower out there, okay, beautiful flower, and I become aware of that flower. So he's saying that it is a lot more wonderful to be aware of that flower in the present moment. Because, like they always talk about, like there's a book also, Power of Now, right? Eckhart Tolle it. And there are some quotes that I like, that I heard, that he said, somewhere I heard that the now moment never ends, right? It all continues, and that's called eternity. We never think about it that way. We think eternity is something, I don't know what it is, and also just for a minute think about it. Every second is becoming now. The time is running, but it is always the now for us. So that's what it is. So power of now, meaning right now I should become aware of it, because if you don't do that, you cannot experience the flower properly, according to him. We never think it that way. So he said that what we are thinking is, जब हम लोग सोचते हैं कि हमको कुछ, we want to be happy or something, we start thinking of our childhood. Oh, बचपन के दिन भी क्या दिन थे, ये है वो है. We start thinking of the past, right? He's saying that's not paying attention, because while you were बचपन में जब तुम थे, तब you were not enjoying your बचपन. You were thinking of, oh, when I grow up, I'll do this, or, mummy kab mujhe chocolate degi, whatever. You're never in that now. That is a problem. We don't think about it that way. So he's saying that our problem with our life is that either we remember all the things, or we are imagining. Ye hoga, wo hoga, worrying. So we miss life, according to them. And I think anytime you hear any self-realized saint, they give you this kind of, what should I say, this way of living life is that's the best way of living, is enjoy right now and experience life. Truly. Don't live in the dead moments of past, like there's no reverse gear in life, like they say. And the future, we don't know. It will unfold automatically. So why you're worrying? So there are many ways we can try to bring ourselves. So, and also they will give you advice, and so did Nikhilanandji. The living happens only when our whole attention is in the present moment. So he's saying that, but we don't do that because we are too busy about the future and past and all, and life just goes by you. You're just not living anymore. So that's why he said, learn to pay attention. So he's saying that the way you want to practice is, even if you take any object, don't think about it. Just become aware of its presence. That, that's what. And he's saying when you start doing that, something most fascinating happens, according to him. And, because you realize that the flower is as much present as you are, so there is a common thread, the existence of the flower and existence of you, and so there is as much God in the flower as in you, right? So those are the things that we have to learn to do, and that's why he said that instead of in the beginning it is okay. We will need that sadhana to do. That's why we have all those words and all that. That will help us to go to the next stage, becoming aware of the presence of Brahman. And also, I was telling you, the next 6 chapters are going to help us, because we will deeply understand what Brahman is. Then, as I was saying, we can't get away from it. Whatever it'll keep Brahman in mind. So according to Nikhilanandji, that is true meditation. So, and then he's talking about it that you do constantly this, the next thing in the verse, because when you do something like this, paying attention, that's when your mind comes under control and it will not get distracted. Because you are learning not to think about it from the past and the future, but just accepting things as they are. And he's saying that just think about it. When you don't want to think of the past and the future, you don't require your mind. See, we don't think about it that, but then mind ka kaam hi khatam ho gaya, right? That's why I said transcend the mind. So mind becomes still. I remember we saw that previous were prashant. That's where it's coming from. So our attention becomes still. And I remembered, how some of the saints and sages explain in their own way, from their own experience, about meditation, like, Sadhguru does that, and And, Osho used to do that. So he gave a very beautiful definition of meditation. He said, meditation is when you come to a state where you don't want to change anything in the universe. You accept exactly everything the way it is. We don't think about it, right? We want to fix this, we want to fix that. All the bad things go away, good things come to me. That's the problem. If you have trust and surrender in God, He has a reason whatever is happening. So then accepting exactly the thing the way it is, that's when your mind becomes still, and that is when you don't want to change anything in the world. That's what true meditation is going to happen. So that's why the complete attention. And then coming back to the flower example, we can only pay complete attention to that flower when our mind is still. Because he said that one thought also will come, it will disturb you from that state. Okay, so that's what we have to kind of contemplate upon. So in the same that for flower example, now take it to the self, that paying attention, becoming aware of that self 100% in everything, And then the other two words are niyata manasa. Niyata manasa means, we have already discussed that, mind ko control mein rakhna, silencing the mind. Continue this, So then he said that suppose if you follow all this instruction very nicely and you understood everything and now you did it for a long time, tab kya hoga? And we have discussed it. You will enter into that turiya state. And he actually said it. How, why, what, we don't know. because go back to that sleep example. How we slip in the sleep and how we do it, nobody knows. कभी सोचो ये exact time भी नहीं मालूम पड़ता कब when you sleep. We never think about it. Do you ever know that, I slept at 8:01? No, I don't know when I went to sleep. So he's saying that's exactly, this is how you will slip into it and you will go into that turiya avastha. And what is the nature of that turiya avastha? He says over here, shantim, complete peace. Okay, so you will reach that state. And what is that state? He's saying my state. My over here, Krishna Bhagwan means he's one with the Brahman. So it's not Krishna Bhagwan the body, but Krishna Bhagwan the Brahman. He's saying that is me, that is that Brahman. And then the other word he used, what is Nirvana Paramam? It is of the nature of Nirvana and Moksha. Okay? Or what does it mean in our common language? It means freedom from all bondage, basically. We get so tied down with our problems in the family, in the world, in the community, this, that. So this is a freedom from all that bondage. That doesn't mean that we will not do something. Huh? So don't misunderstand about that. That's not what it means. But we won't feel the stress. So this is the supreme state of realization, which is extremely peaceful and shantim. Okay, and then he went back to it, connecting that what happened. Okay, why it is supreme peaceful? Because there are no distraction of the mind. जैसे ही माइंड्स में थॉट कम होता है तभी हम लोग को शांति मिलती है. ये एक्सपीरियंस तो हम लोग को भी है, right? So that's why he's just reminding you. And then nirvana word, actually the real meaning of nirvana is slightly different. It means जो एक लॉ होती है ना मोमबत्ती की, वो निर्वाण, उसको वाण बोलते हैं, like कोई दिए की लॉ, like flame of the no flame means no distraction, no desire. जो वासना का तेल खत्म हो गया है, मतलब जब तेल खत्म हो जाता है वासना का तो वो कुछ बत्ती जलेगी नहीं. That's what this nirvan. Van is that, nirvan means not. So here he is talking about that this is my abode and that you will reside in me then. And यहाँ पर when he says Paramatma, he just reminding us, we have studied that it means that the supreme self, which is the self in the whole world, substratum of the whole world. So it's in me and also the substratum. Those are the things we have to remember. And then this is what this verse is saying, that if you will attain that state if you follow those instructions of Krishna Bhagwan and continue the process of meditation. So in short, just being conscious of the consciousness is required. That is what is required in meditation. No other thing is required. You don't need your sense organs or thinking or nothing like that. And then he just went back to just remind you that all these other things, don't discount them completely, because we are not at that stage yet, right? So in the beginning stages, we will have to take help of all those thinking, even thinking of the mantra, thinking of nature of God. But he just, as I told you in this chapter, Krishna Bhagwan is telling you the final goal, and then he's going to give tips about how to get there also again and again. So he's helping Arjun, and through Arjun us, how to do this. And so he was just, again, he was cautioning us, Nikhilanandji, that meditation is not seeing something, it is not any kind of perception, it is not any kind of action, it is not repeating mantras and all. These are just sadhana that are getting you there, but that's not real meditation. It's not imagination. So don't get caught into all those things. So we already know that. But it is that fourth state that some of us studied, in Mandukya Upanishad. And what is the basic thing over here? There's no duality. So that's another very important thing, because he said there's no division of meditator and the object of meditation. So it disappears. And then we have used that analogy over here, that the river becomes the ocean. Then I was thinking about it. Only ocean knows the ocean. River cannot know the ocean until it becomes it. So that's how it is, that you become that Brahman, then you know Brahman. So he also told us that if whoever has heard this, Kaivalya Avastha. Kaivalya means the only, because this oneness happens there, suddenly. Okay? So he's saying that it's solitude, but it's not loneliness. Because we get scared. No, remember the fear factor comes in. Oh, I'm going to be so alone. No. It is solitude, but not loneliness. And Kaivalya Avastha. And there is actually Upanishad, Kaivalya Upanishad also, on the same subject. So basically the idea is that we have to practice regularly. So now the question is going to come, that when we do practice, some obstacles are going to come. We already know it. So next two verses, he's going to tell us what those obstacles are, and we have to work on them. And it's basically going to tell us, to harmonize and balance our life, because then meditation becomes easier. So that we'll do it next week. But any question or comment on this one before we read Swamiji's commentary? Yes, Dr. Prabhakar.
Umaji, please explain to me again the example of flower which Swami Nikhilananda mentioned. And he mentioned about the thought and then attention. So please explain to me.
So this is what he was trying to say, and other people can also, say if they have anything to say about this. He said that whenever we say thought now, Dr. Prabhakar, it's always about the past and the future. So then I may see a flower and I might say, अरे ये तो वहाँ देखा था, और वो वाला तो बहुत बड़ा था, ये छोटा है, I have to give some fertilizer, and also we have gone into the thought process. Or, like I'm seeing somebody's neighbors, I want to put it in my yard, it'll look so beautiful and all that. So, hey, God has given this flower, see God in it. अरे कितना सुंदर है, खिला हुआ है, जहाँ ही वहीं सुंदर है. That's paying attention. When we go into that other mode, we get distracted.
So how do we translate this example while you are in the meditation? So how do we really...
So the trick that he gave was very good one. He said that in the beginning, we have to think about Brahman. Because we right? So that's why these verses are there. Right now we are on chapter 6, and there are beautiful verses, chapter 2.
Yes.
And as we go along, you will see many more beautiful meditative verses will come. And then as we progress further in Bhagavad Gita, like when we come to chapter 10, when Arjun will say, hey, how do I see you in the world? And he's going to give you a trick. See, most glorious thing. कोई भी हम लोग गीता नहीं भी पढ़े ना, any time we see anything superb and हमारे मुंह से क्या निकलता है? Out of this world. Wow. So, and I see God in it, and things like that. So, but then realize that everything is God. Because as we travel further, and you will see that when you come up to chapter 15, I was talking about it. He's saying that he's talking about, that stage of the sun is God and everything. So once we finish that whole thing, you will be thinking about it, you'll be aware of it all the time. And some people give an example of this awareness. What it means is, it's like you never forget you are Dr. Prabhakar. Whether you are operating or you are enjoying with your family or whatever you're doing, or you're seeing your patients. That's what he means. But I still think I'm Uma, I'm this, I'm that. He's saying, no, you are that Brahman, So the more we soak into Brahman, then we will be aware of Brahman rather than thinking of it.
Okay.
I don't know if that answered your question.
So it means that first thing I understood that the thinking part of it, of the second one is that I am Brahman. So you pay attention to that concept that I am Brahman. I am Brahman. Is it the correct thinking?
I mean, it sometimes is hard in the beginning to say I am Brahman, right? Because we say, I say that, but I don't feel that. So, we don't want to fall. But at least, once we come to that stage that we realize everything is coming from Brahman, then you start seeing that oneness.
Okay.
And then you are aware of it.
Okay.
Like once I live in San Diego for a long time, I become aware of what San Diego. In the beginning, I don't know.
Okay. Yes.
So I get familiarize myself with it, soak myself into it,
Thank you.
And then I can, if I want to go somewhere, I my mind knows where the roads are, everything. It's something like that,
Okay. Thank you much.
Swamiji, can you also say is awareness without analysis?
Yes, I think that's a very good way, because sometimes, we can use some other words to grasp the thing. So I think whatever you're saying makes sense. Because analysis mein na intellect aa jata hai. They are telling you to transcend the intellect. Because that's why when you, in meditation, you are going toward that oneness. So drop all the differences. If you're going to stay in the difference mode, we won't be able to meditate. Because then, division to the koi uska limit hi nahi hai to divide people. But to go to the source of it, they're telling you to keep going to the source of it. So I think that's a good way you put it, Andaji.
Yeah, once you go towards oneness, then there is nothing to think about.
There you go. That's exactly the point. But our intellect plays trick on us, because the job of the intellect is to cut and divide, So that's what they are saying, to go to that intuitive level rather than this. Intellect is very good tool for to survival and in the world, and to make money, to run the house, all that we need intellect. But to know Brahman, it's a very opposite of what we need. That's why we have to drop it. Yeah, Sheilaji.
Umaji, I have one question too. Like, to be present, can we concentrate, watch our breath?
Yeah, that's a very good practice. Remember we discussed earlier that because breath always happens in present, there's one of the tools.
One of the tools.
So we can even combine all the different tools. We can do the breath, we can study the mantras and dhire dhire dhire, and then as we become more and more aware of it, then it will become hopefully easier and easier. Yeah.
I hope so.
No, it will. Just look at yourself before and now, and you will see the difference.
Yeah.
Maybe before I keep my eyes closed for 5 minutes, and now I can do 10 minutes, 15 minutes. So there's going to be some progress. Yeah. Okay, shall we read Swamiji's commentary?
Yeah.
Any volunteers? Meera ji cannot do today. Yeah, okay, here. Sushil ji and both of you raise your hand. Neelu ji, one can read this and one can read the next one. Go ahead, Sushil ji, then. Neelu ji can read the next one.
Okay. Thus, always keeping the mind balanced, yogi with his mind controlled attains to the peace abiding in me, which culminates in the total liberation, nirvana or moksha. After describing thus the physical pose, the mental stability, and the consequent intellectual self-application, the Lord on the Kurukshetra is describing the last lap in the technique of meditation to his beloved friend, the Pandava prince. When all the above details are worked out by anyone, that individual becomes a man, steadfast both in his physical and in his settler life, and thereby he comes to realize from himself a large quantity of his psychic vitality. In this stanza, it is said that when a meditator controls his mind and constantly, sada, keeps his mind away from agitations, it is such an individual who could easily and surely reach the spring.
So, yes, Swamiji is saying this is the last part of it now, that after whatever he said earlier, you continuously do that, keep your mind without agitation, then you could easily, surely reach the Supreme. And then he's going to explain the sada. Go to the next paragraph and then we'll know what he means.
The term always sada should not be misunderstood as suggesting that the practitioner should thereby come to live criminally, neglecting all his duties towards his home and the world around himself. Here the term always only connotates a duration of constant and consistent inner silence during one's meditation. At the peak of meditation, the practitioner comes to a point of perfect and still halt. The next line of the verse explains what happens in the still moment when the mind is perfectly calmed.
So he's just trying to tell you, you're doing 10 hours of meditation. All that's not what they're asking you here to do. Whatever time you assign, that's where you should try to keep it under control. And then the other part where I already said that we discussed that it can apply to the other one once we learn to see Brahman everywhere. So then this can actually apply to both sides. But Swamiji is more practical. So he doesn't want people, sab kaam dham chhod ke baith gaye or your duties are getting neglected, because he could not said that to Arjun, right? He's telling Arjun to go fight the war, but then he tells him that you fight the war keeping me in mind. That's how you do it. So that's why we should know what he's talking about.
The individual comes to experience infinite peace, which is the peace that resides in him. The self is peace absolute,
Shantam.
Santam, in as much as the processes of physical excitements, mental agitations, and intellectual disturbances are not in the self, since it is beyond these matter envelopments. In this portion of the stanza, it may look as though Krishna is advocating the dualistic school of philosophy, since here it is said, the meditator reaches the peace which is my own nature. To conceive a truth having qualities is to reduce the eternal to the finite status of substance, dravya. Again, if the meditator experiences the peace that resides in me, then the goal gained becomes an object different from the meditator.
So he's just cautioning you, Swamiji, because he says that he, which is the individual comes to experience an infinite peace, which is the peace that resides in me, He's saying that the language looks like as though it's a dualistic thing. That's all he's cautioning, that here is God, here is me, and I'm experiencing his peace. But he's saying that Krishna Bhagwan realized that that's not what actually happens. So he actually used few more extra words. That's why he use the word nirvana and moksha. I mean, here he used the word nirvana. And he comes to my abode, merges with me. So that merging part, is very important to understand. And we have discussed it many times. And there is another very good example about the merging. I think it was Vivekanandaji's guru, Ramakrishna Paramhans. We gave this famous analogy that it's like we are jivas, right? So the jivas are compared to a salt doll. Salt doll is saying, I want to find my origin. And the salt doll slowly start walking towards the ocean. Just think of an animation, okay? And the salt doll, because finds the guru, and the guru says, hey, that's your source over there. As it goes to the ocean, the salt doll, what will happen to it? It will start melting in it and go. So that's what he's talking about over here. So that was salt doll example was a very good one too. That what actually happens in the final stages.
The subtle philosopher Sri Krishna recognizes this unavoidable imperfection of the spoken language, and therefore he tries to neutralize the fallacy in his expressions by the significant terms, the peace that ultimately culminates in the supreme liberation, nirvana paramam.
Yeah, so nirvana paramam. So he's just saying that how the peace that ultimately culminates in a supreme liberation. So let's read the next paragraph and then it will become even more clear.
In short, when the meditator has come to the moment of perfect silence within, he comes to experience at first a peace that is unknown in the world without. Okay, let me read that again. In short, when the meditator has come to the moment of perfect silence within, he comes to experience at first a peace that is unknown in the world without. Soon as it were, the experiencer gets slowly acted upon and digested into the very substance of the truth, whose fragrance was the peace. Whose fragrance was the peace which the dying ego of the meditator in its gasping delusion seems to experience at the gateway to its own real divine nature.
It's such a long sentence, and I had to read it several times too. So basically what he's trying to say is this, that, and I have to use the analogy because that's where I understand the best. So in my head, I was thinking of the analogy. It's like, you want to see the sunrise, right? So you go, the beautiful sunrise is only when you go before the sunrise, isn't it? Whoever wants to see the sunrise. So there is some drama that happens before the sun comes out. It becomes red and it becomes beautiful and this and that, and then you get wow, and you wait for them, and then suddenly the sun comes up and illumines the whole world. It's a very exciting thing if you whoever can see the sunrise. So that things that happen before the sunrise, all the beauty and man already usme ramne lagta hai, no? So he's saying that when the ego is dying, that shanti aane lagti hai fir. This is before the final bang happens, So all the great things that happen, that's what he's referring to in this. Okay.
In fact, in the last stage of fulfillment in the meditation, the meditator awakens to his own status of selfhood. This Advaita experience is the one sole factor that has been repeated at all ends all over Krishna's song divine.
So this is the final thing that, he awakens to the higher self. And about awakening, we know that until you are asleep, you are not awake. So it is like you have to awaken to, and then he's just saying that throughout he's talking about it, but sometimes it's hard for us to understand what it is. But the best thing that we can do is continue to purify our mind and continue on this, and we'll trust them. Just like for the sleep, we know that we just prepare for the sleep. When the sleep is going to come, only Nidra Devi knows. When Nidra Devi pulls us into it, that way Brahman will pull us in when he thinks we are ready. So anyway, any comment or question?
I mean, there was one thing, I don't know if that answers Dr. Prabhakar's question or not. Mm-hmm. I think Niklananda also said that Krishna says, I am in everyone and everything is in me. So if you think about that, if we really believe in that, then there can be nothing which is not Krishna or which is not really God.
True.
Ms. Brahman can be seen everywhere if we believe just in that sentence. Everything is in me and I'm in everything. Well, what is left? Nothing. So whatever you look at, that is him. May he explained it that way also. It came, I think, recently I was listening to him. So.
Yeah, those two verses are going to come in chapter 9, I believe. That when he talks about that everything is in me. And first, they're going to be contradictory thing, but he'll tell you why it is contradictory. First, he's going to say everything is in me, I'm in everything. And then he said nothing is in me. And then we'll see why he said it. Because Vedanta talks about contradiction because from what angle you're talking about, both are true, but it's trying to kind of jiggle your mind so that you rise above all these things, So you will see that how in Kathopanishad, the verse we are doing, it's very complementary to what we are doing, number one. And there also a huge contradiction is there, but why it's there, we'll see. But that verse he's talking about, Sushilji talking about, those are also beautiful verses to contemplate upon. And it can make our mind quiet for sure. Anybody else has any comment?
I was just thinking, what Sushilji just said. And if you look at the substratum, if you know the substratum, if you know the creation is of the 5 elements and nothing else, then everything is in me, the substratum. And, I am in everything. That means all the creation is because of me. Everything. Then you can think of it because it's one substratum that you're talking about. It's a oneness. And from there, the whole creation is being made. Those 5 elements are from that itself. True. So if you remember that, then, it becomes, then you see that oneness that. And I was also thinking, when there's a thought, that means it's a thought from memory. And that's the past. That's when I look at it that that's the past. And now is the current most.
Right.
And there is a difference in these two. Then you don't go in the past. As Dr. Prabhupada was saying about the two things. And one was the thought. And that always is, to me, that's the memory part of it. And that is not in the now. So when you talk about now, it's different. That's the experience that you're getting right now, the experience. So there are 2 different things, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. So I wanted to go back to one verse, because we have to go back to chapters before, right? Because we are on chapter 6, so we can't forget what we learned. That's why he told us to practice karma yoga. And one of the very good verse for karma yoga, one is, of course, verse 47 of chapter 2, karmanyavadhikaraste, that a lot of people have memorized and all. And the other verse is verse 30 of chapter 3, where he talks about that, this about how to live in the present and act. So that doesn't mean we don't plan our life. We have to learn from our mistakes. We plan our life. But while we are acting, how to be in that now. So he said that you do it with adhyatma chetasa, means your mind should be in that Brahman, and then you have to do 3 adjustments, according to him, Lord Krishna, while acting in the now. One is, don't think of the past, don't have the ego, because ego is a bundle of memories. Main ye hoon, main wo hoon, and all that. Don't think about that. No anxiety for the future and no overly excitement of the present also. Then also you will miss it.
Yes.
Some people get, oh, मुझे ये करना है, वो करना है, वो करना है, करके वो इतना ज़्यादा excitement. All three, the adjustment you make, then you can be in the now. So that karma yoga will train our mind to be in the now. So when we sit in meditation, it will be easy for us. So that's why the practice of karma yoga is so important.
It is true, karma yoga. But when we say be in me, in you, when the Lord says that, that means, but I don't have to think of two things when I'm doing that. I'm doing, that is the thing. You have to be in the action that you're doing. That is the now. Mm-hmm. And that is Lord himself. Because who's performing? It is the Lord. It is his, Shakti in me. Mm-hmm. So I cannot think, I'm doing it. Lord is doing. No. At that moment, you are in the action itself. And not thinking of anything else. Not the ego, not the Lord even. The name of the Lord even. But you are in action. That's when it is. That is the Lord doing it. Then you can say thank you or say anything. But when you're performing, you are in. To me, that is the Lord.
See, if you can come to that stage, fantastic. And that's why what Krishna Bhagavan is saying, suppose that is not happening with me right now, right? I know intellectually it's not happening. That's why those next two verses are going to come. Balance your life, because it's like a little adjustment that we make around that will help us to get to that stage that Meenaji is talking about. Because sometimes intellectually we know, but when I'm actually doing, again, my mind runs in the past and the future, this, that happens. So he's going to give us a lot more tips. So this one, what he's talking about, we don't need to get so scared about it, because he's talking about the highest. He's talking about the peak of the mountain. Okay. We may be at all different stages of climbing the mountain right now. So,
right.
so peak is there. Okay. I want that nirvana. I want that moksha. I want that peace. But he's going to help us. Hey, how to get there? Because Krishna Bhagwan ने अर्जुन को chapter 2 बोल के छोड़ नहीं दिया वहाँ पे, और बोला नहीं को कि go fight now. So he had the patience. Don't worry. I know your problems. I'm going to solve it one by one now. So as we go along, we are अभी 1/3 अभी हुआ है ना. So we have another chapter coming. So we should be very encouraged. अभी तक हम लोग ने जो सीखा है उसे हम ज़्यादा ही सीखेंगे अभी, जैसे आगे बढ़ेंगे. So shall I close Bhagavad Gita unless somebody has any burning comment, question? Okay. I'll close Bhagavad Gita here. Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tva sarva papebhya moksha ishyami ma shuchah. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.